My name's Taylor Bryant. I currently work at Beauty Independent. We're a scrappy trade publication. We mostly cover indie beauty brands and general happenings within the beauty industry. My beats at BI are covering BIPOC founders and the struggles that they face, but also the accomplishments and wins that they are achieving, and the white spaces that they are filling. And then sometimes clean beauty and sustainability, but that is a very convoluted topic. And then prior to BI, I worked at more consumer facing publications, so Refinery 29 and Nylon. And I freelanced for about 2 years and wrote for publications like Wall Street Journal, LA Times, Fashionista, Glamour, and Teen Vogue. The kind of beauty news stories that are catching my attention and the attention of our team are conversations around de-influencing, and what that means for beauty brands that are looking to up their marketing. Conversations around mold that have been growing on certain beauty products that has stemmed from Reddit conversations and on TikTok. And then also conversations around Gen Z and them exploring the world of plastic surgery and Botox at such a young age. I think a lot of news stories are stemming from social media, but they have a broader impact on the industry. And that's what we kind of like to look at. So the trends that I've been seeing in 2023 so far really surround rethinking ingredients. So there's one brand in particular, Oso Vert, that uses upcycled ingredients in their products. So the entirety of a rose plant or a turmeric plant. I think sustainability is a very important topic and isn't necessarily thought about as much in the fragrance space. And then another trend outside of ingredients is scent wardrobing, which involves fragrance brands expanding outside of perfumes and candles. So there's a brand called Dead Cool that has released linen sprays, laundry detergent, poop drops are eventually expanding into pet products. So I think giving customers options is a great trend and is something that they're really, really looking for. Our approach for trend forecasting is mostly looking at social media, seeing what people are talking about right now, but also thinking about the trends now and then looking at how that trend is going to evolve. So an example is like skin cycling, which was popular at one point or another, and looking at how that's going to evolve. So into hair care, into body care, into fragrance, looking at the next evolution of that particular trend. We also consult founders and consultants and experts within the industry to see what they are talking about, what changes that they want to see within the industry. I think it's kind of a mix of our own predictions and then talking to people within the industry. So a story that comes to mind is about a brand called Able Odor. I think that they are UK based, and they're a natural perfume who back in 2019 attempted to replace the plastic cellophane that their fragrance was wrapped in, with a naturally derived version made up of like cornstarch, I think, and sugarcane. And they went through with this despite their supplier telling them that it wasn't a good idea. And it ended up not being a great idea. A lot of the fragrances were damaged in transit. But what I appreciated about the brand is how transparent they were. They sent out a newsletter to their customers letting them know this is something we attempted and we failed, basically. But we're continuing to be better in the sustainability front and trying to find different alternatives. I think beauty at its core is not sustainable. The only way a brand can be sustainable is if it doesn't exist. And so I appreciate, and what I think consumers appreciate is brands that are trying to do better, even if that means failing in the process and being upfront about those shortcomings and being transparent. A couple brands that come to mind. One is Chris Collins. He is a Black perfumer who started his brand years ago, who recently launched into Sephora. He was actually the first Black-owned fragrance brand to launch into the retailer. He comes at fragrance from a more luxury angle. He previously was in Bergdorf's and Neiman's and is kind of trying to make his way into more of the mainstream side of perfume. Another is Oso Vert, which I mentioned recently. I think that they are making a lot of strides in the sustainability front of fragrance. Another brand is Mudo. They recently launched into Credo. They're pretty new. And I think what's interesting about them is the founder or the brand started with one scent and in a travel size container, which I feel like is abnormal. It's usually the other way around. Like a brand starts with a 50 milliliter, $100 plus bottle and then transitions into on the go fragrances. But I think that this is a great entry point for consumers, people wanting to dip their toes into the scent. But also with travel ramping up post pandemic, people are looking for these on the go travel sprays to bring with them. And it just feels like less of a commitment for the consumer. I envision the future of fragrance looking more diverse. I'd like to see more BIPOC founders at the helm of brands, more BIPOC perfumers behind the brands, behind the scenes. I'd also like to see more personalization. I know that layering has become very popular among the Gen Z set, and they like to mix and match scents kind of to their liking depending on their mood. So I feel like a next iteration of that could be a DIY, elevated DIY fragrances, in the same vein that a function of beauty and prose has done with hair care. I feel like there's space for fragrance to do that as well, because scent in particular, I feel like is so personal, and brings up emotions and memories for so many people. It only makes sense that they're able to kind of personalize their own fragrances.